Here we go. Welcome back to Travels with Carl, my friends. Episode number 30. Wow, can you imagine that? Well, if you're new to the channel, Travels with Carl this is Carl. Carl's a 31-foot long Alumilite motorhome with a Chevy 454 engine right down beneath me here. I've never even seen it from the top yet. It's hard to believe, but I've owned Carl for coming on 2 years now. And so it's about me and Carl traveling around in a motorhome, but it's not just about travel. Okay, I'm a lifelong artist. My name is Rich Van Gogh, and I have a BFA in film and video, which I started at the fantastic Philadelphia College of Art back in 1979, transferred to Oakland, to the Big O, baby, and graduated from there in 1983 with a BFA in film and video. I traveled around the country, been to 47 states and lived in 12 of them. And you know the thing, like artists, whether you're a writer, a painter, a dancer, a musician, a singer, a songwriter, a guitar player, a bass player, a drummer, fine artist, a ceramicist, a potter, a sculptor, it doesn't matter unless you're born with a lot of money in your disposal. It's a hard way to make a living, okay? It's not for the faint of heart, and I really don't recommend it. Become a doctor or a lawyer, right? Fuck. Anyway, always striving for the Super Bowl, man. Always trying to make that World Series level of fine art, okay? That's me. Now you know a little bit more about me, okay? It's not that much to know about Carl. Carl just does his own thing. He was born in 1991, so you can do the math. He's 34 years old, something like that, 35. No, he's 36 years old. He's in great shape, and I'm 68. I'm trying to keep up with Carl, to tell you the truth. Anyway, a weird thing, just speaking of keeping up with Carl, a weird thing just happened today. We're plugged into shore power now. We're in Carl's gated living community. It's a parking lot with a gate around it. And for the first time since I've lived in my house, and I've lived here a little over a year now, Carl's plugged into one of those big heavy-duty, cables. And so I can keep the lights on and keep a heater running. When I got in here, all the power was off except for the heater. My electric heater wasn't running, and the motor to the heater, which I usually use when I'm camping, when I have a tank full of propane, that was on. I can't explain it, as Ricky would say. I can't explain it. So I just switched around a couple of circuit breakers so I could turn that off. It's just pumping cold air in here. Fuck. It's the last thing I wanted for my poor baby. Anyway, all's good right now. I've already wasted 3 minutes and 35 seconds going over that, but that's the first time that's ever happened to me. So, okay. We're trying to talk about social political stuff a little while, but every episode, and this is what I think really makes Travels with Carl a unique YouTube channel, is I've worked over 52 jobs in my life, and every week we talk about, every episode I discuss one of those jobs besides all the other stuff I talk about, and it's all coming right off the top, man. No script on this, okay? But at the end of that year, there'll be 52 short stories, which I'm actually going to write them out, and they'll be rewritten and edited and turned into beautiful deluxe Hemingway level short stories, and there'll be 52 paintings. Now, if you've been following along, for the last month or two I've been letting you down every week because I just didn't have time to do the paintings, okay? Because I do an original painting for every job, and that turns into a limited edition signed and numbered print, and there'll be 52 of them, 25 copies or 25 prints per edition, okay? Those will be sold personally, but on my website, which is www what? Van Gogh Incorporated, but it's not INC. That'd be too easy. It's INK, ink, like a printmaker. Okay, so it's vangogh.ink. Check it out. There's all kinds of good stuff on there, and you can buy unsigned, unnumbered prints, super high quality. Get them on paper, canvas, aluminum plate, framed, unframed, any size that you want, any dimension that you want. Some photography on there. There's some pictures of Burning Man on there, but there's a lot of my paintings that I've done, over the last 10 or 20 years. Anyway, besides plugging my channel and plugging my website, I also plug my book every episode. This book is available on Amazon. Just go right to the book section and type in amendment and the number 21, a dash, and the letter A. Amendment 21-A. And if that doesn't come right up for whatever reason, just type in my name, Rich Van Gogh or Richard Van Gogh, under author, and it'll come up, and that's $20, $19.95 right there. And I always like to read the back of it, because this book has 9 of my original paintings in it, and an introduction, and then 8 short stories. Here's one of my lovely little paintings. Look at that. Oh. What if changing one thing could change the world? This is that one thing. Ending the quote-unquote war on drugs, or prohibition as I like to call it, will be the single largest and most important change in the law in my lifetime. It will positively change the city you live in, the country you live in, and the world that we all live in. It's hard to even wrap your mind around the changes this will bring about until you read this book. I think about all the unnecessary pain and suffering this war brought to us all, and I'm just glad I was able to stop it. Just say no, stand with Van Gogh against illegal prohibition. So I wrote this book in 2017. It's maybe even more pertinent than the day it was published. And you look at what's going on in the world today, and blowing up ships in Venezuela, no trial, just execution. But I'm going to let you get the copy of the book and read it yourself, and then you can reach out to me. I'm easy to find. Okay, but today is episode number 30. And the job that we're going to be talking about, you remember, 29, I was leaving the Ritz-Carlton. Oh, sorry. This is the first time I've done this sitting in the captain's chair. I just spun it around. I couldn't even remember if I could spin it around, because I hardly ever do that when I'm camping, because there's so many other places to sit in here. I got a full sofa over here. Well, I'll show you around real quick. Got a full sofa over here. Bedroom back there, bathroom, separate shower, refrigerator, freezer, 4-burner stove and an oven, double sink. There was a microwave, but I ripped it out. And here's the co-pilot's chair. Here's what I was talking about, right under here. That's the engine. I have yet to even open up that engine compartment, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say, because I'm a bit of a motorhead. Anyway, episode 29, we were in the Beantown. We were in Boston, and I was leaving the Ritz-Carlton Boston. Didn't tell you where I was going, but I was headed to the Big Island, back to Hawaii. What's that make? Second time I moved to Hawaii, right? That's it. It's hard to believe. No, I'm sorry. That was actually the 3rd time. That's right. That was the 3rd time. Oh, man, I can't even keep track of it. That was the 3rd time I moved to Hawaii, and I visited the Big Island once. The very first time I ever took a vacation to Hawaii, I spent a week on the Big Island and a week on Oahu, which is where Honolulu is. And if you're not real familiar with the Hawaiian Islands. I don't know if I ever did this or not, but there's 8 islands, okay? There's Kauai, and they're arranged chronologically, which is a really cool thing because the entire Pacific tectonic plate is just moving 5 inches a year, and it's moving in the same direction it always has been. So as the lava comes up through the ocean floor, it forms these islands, and then as the plate moves along, it produces another island. And it's done that, like I said, there's Kauai, which also has Niihau right off the shore of it, or pretty close to it. You can see it from Kauai. And then as you go into the next oldest island, Oahu, a couple of little islands scattered around there, like Rabbit Island. Okay, that's 3. You got Kauai, Niihau, and Oahu. Now, as you get into Maui County, there's 4 islands that make up Maui County. You've got Maui, which is still a dormant volcano, okay? That's not considered extinct, it's dormant, which means it could blow its lid any time. Then you've got Kaho'olawe, which you've got Molokai, and you've got Lanai. And then as you go further along, you've got the newest island and the biggest island. And just to confuse everybody, they named the big island the Big Island. They named it the island of Hawaii. So everybody is confused because they think, well, the biggest city must be on the Big Island. Exact opposite. The Big Island is the least populated of all the islands. Maybe not today. That may not be accurate today. At least per square foot it is, because it has two 14,000-foot mountains on it, 4,000 feet taller than the tallest mountain on Maui, which is around 10,000 feet, which is Haleakala. On the Big Island, we've got Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea, and they're like two giant mountains, and then between them is a valley, and that goes between Hilo, which is the oldest city on the Big Island, and it's the rainiest. It's on the wet side of the island. And if you drive between those across through that valley, you come out on the other side, and that's where Kona is, where they hold the Kona Gold Coast Jackpot Fishing Tournament every year, and that's where they run the Ironman, run and swim and bike the Ironman. And that's where I went to work. Okay, I went to the Orchid at Mauna Lani on the Big Island, which at the time was a Sheraton. Okay, when it opened, it was a Ritz-Carlton, and it bombed. Now, just so you know how rare that is, normally they do a lot of research when they open up a Ritz-Carlton. Apparently, they didn't do enough due diligence on this one because it was running at like 10 or 20% occupancy, because most of the Ritz-Carlton people, which I elaborated on that a little bit last time, is they're mostly right-wingers. They're mostly old people with old money, and they really weren't thinking about the Big Island. It's just a little too rugged for them. There's not a lot of nightlife, and there's not a lot of restaurants, except for now there's like 8 resorts, or anyway. So here's a name out of the Epstein files and out of Trump's cabinet: Tom Barrack. Okay, Tom Barrack was a hotelier before he became, now I think he's the embassy, what is that called? The ambassador for Turkey or something like that. But he went hardcore right wing, and yeah, he's in Trump's little family right now. Tom Barrack. Well, Tom bought that building. He bought the Ritz-Carlton, and he had Sheraton manage it. So you could buy a hotel, and you could call up the Ritz-Carlton and go, hey, I want you to manage this hotel. And they decide whether or not it fit into their portfolio. Well, the Sheraton was like, hell yeah, we'll manage that, no problem. And the occupancy went from like 20% to like 90%. So I got to check in old Tom one time. He was over for his birthday, and he had Miss Fiji with him, which is not his wife, okay? But his wife had just given him a completely remodeled what do they call those old station wagons, Woodies? She gave him one of those for his birthday, and it had a handmade koa wood surfboard in the back of it, and I actually drew the card and I got to check Tom in. So he had such a good time that he invited all of his friends over for his birthday. I never met his wife. I don't think his wife was invited. I'll tell you a little bit about old Tom Barrack, but they were helicoptering people in to Waimea Canyon, or not to Waimea Canyon, into Waimea Beach on the Big Island. They were flying in. They had their surfboards strapped to those things underneath the helicopter. I forget what you call those things that the helicopter sits on when it lands. They were strapping their surfboards onto this, flying them into this remote area on the Big Island where they could surf. And they spent a few nights out there camping, all their gear and everything, and flying, helicoptering in their food, ice cream. They were just living large down there, and then flew them all back. And then Tom took off, and his birthday party was over. But I went there, as I said, that would have been my last security job at the Ritz on Boston, and I went back and got hired there as a bellman. So everybody in the bell department took turns doing, sometimes we were doorman, sometimes we were the bellman. And I talked about these jobs last time. I talked about Norman the doorman, who was there for 50 years. Okay, the bellman, valets, also the valet department is also usually part of the guest services department, which oversees all those other positions. And then we kind of rotated, which made it kind of fun because you go in one day and you're not a bellman for the rest of your life. You go in there one week, you'll be working in the as a bellman. Next week you'll be parking cars, and the next week you'll be running the front door and holding your own cars up front, and the next day you might be a valet cashier or something. So anyway, I was there for almost a year. The Big Island has 11 different climates. I think the Earth has 13 or 14 different climates, and the Big Island has all of them except for Saharan and Arctic, if I'm not mistaken. They could have reclassified some of that stuff, they could have changed, I'm not sure, but just to give you an idea, it has a lot of different climates. So you can start on Kona side and drive across the island, and the ferns start out, and then by the time you get higher up, they're same fern but much smaller. And so it's like a Darwin trip going around that island, because you can grow anything on that island depending on where you are, right? You can grow coffee, really good coffee there, chocolate, cocoa. Anyway, so I was there for about a year, and then I got really bored. I got divorced. My wife mailed me divorce papers in the mail. It was fucking sad and lonely. And I still had some good times. My sister came over and visited me, and I gave her a grand tour of Maui, Oahu, and the Big Island. We did not go to Kauai, but I hit the highlights on that trip and was able to show her some of my stomping grounds in the Hawaiian Islands there. And I'm not going to tell you where Job 31 takes me, but it's still in the Hawaiian Islands, and that's why I had to think there for a minute. Was that the second or the third time that I moved to Hawaii? No, it was in fact the third time. And you know what they say, it's third time's the charm, or 3 strikes and you're out. And I'll let you decide. We're not quite there yet. But I'm not in Hawaii, so that might give you a clue. I got a lot of good things to say about Hawaii, and I'll try and bite my tongue from telling you what I don't like about Hawaii right now. Okay. Insects. No, that's just part of it. It's a fucked up place in some ways, sadly. Yeah, it's sad. but it got hit hard with culture, going from Stone Age to Jet Age. That's never good for a culture to happen overnight. And also, they really don't like outsiders, unless you're Asian. Okay, if you're white, you're a haole. Even if you were born on that island, you're a haole from the day you were born till the day you die, or till the day you leave. Whichever comes first. And when they call you a haole, they don't mean it in a nice way. Okay, I'm just saying that. Well, see, I said I wasn't going to tell you what I didn't like about Hawaii, and then I just spilled my guts. All right. There's a lot more that I love, and I have some great friends that still live in Hawaii, and I might go back and visit someday. Not sure, I doubt it, because I want to explore Europe now. But I know that I'll never live there again, that's for sure. Something would have to change dramatically for me to ever even consider living there. Anyway, Carl still needs new batteries. I'm going to pop up the engine compartment here. I'm going to try and do that next week for you, because I'm dying to see it, and I have to fix my power steering, and taking that covers off is going to be part of that operation. Because it's somewhere in there, and you got to access it from the top, I'm pretty sure. I do have a manual for Carl, and it hasn't been on the top of my reading list, because I've been kind of busy. But I'm not even going to say that I know this is going to disappoint you, because I've disappointed you so many times. I don't think I can. This is just a photograph of the orchid at Mauna, Lani. Okay. But she's a beauty. Okay. Like I said, that's a big island. That's the big island right now. And you can kind of tell it was a Ritz-Carlton when you walk around inside of it. But look at that water. Look at that lava. It's gorgeous. And I definitely recommend it for a vacation or for travel. They play the Senior Skins golf tournament there if you're into golfing. I got to meet Chichi Rodriguez. Is that right? Yeah, and all the Arnold Palmer and all those cats were there, man. And Sam Choi. I became friends with Sam Choi. He used to have a TV show called The Choi of Cooking, instead of The Joy of Cooking, right? And Sam was this big dude, big Hawaiian dude, and they say, never trust the skinny chef. Sam liked to eat, man, and you go to any one of Sam's restaurants, whether it was a fine dining or plate lunch, it was always big food, man. Like, it was hard for a normal person to can finish one of his plates of food, but he used to pour shoyu in, which is soy sauce, but everything was drenched in soy sauce. And Sam had a restaurant on the Big Island, and he also had plate lunch places, and he opened another restaurant on Oahu. I remember one time Sam came rolling in a van, and I go, "Hey, Sam, you remember me?" He goes, "Yeah, I remember you." And he goes, "I'm surprised you remember me." I'm like, "Oh shit, man, you're famous, Sam. I'm just a bellman." But he is a really neat guy. I don't know if he's still alive or not. I hope that he is. But he loved playing golf, and so during the Senior Skins, he was over there, and I don't think he was playing in the game. I don't think he was at that level, but everybody loved the Big Island for golf, because it's like being on the moon. I mean, there's chunks of lava. Now, if you don't know a lot about lava, when the molten rock comes out of the earth, at least in Hawaii, okay, it's very hot and it's very thin, and it flows very quickly. It's because the lava tunnels are so close to the surface that the rock is really hot. It's not like it's barely molten. It's like red hot liquid, and it's just coming out. So when it flows fast like that, it comes out in real thin layers, kind of like if you were to take a candle with a bunch of liquid wax and you just kind of threw it down. It slides over itself like that, and so it's called pahoehoe, and it's like smooth. It's really beautiful. But then there's another way that it can come out when it's so much lava coming out at a time that it makes like a wall of lava, that the rest of the lava is just pushing along like a bulldozer, right? You can imagine like a 4-foot tall berm of lava coming towards you slowly. Well, the front end of it's cool and the top edge of it's cool too. It's just being pushed by a big 4-foot tube of liquid rock. And so these round rocks, they call them clinkers because it makes a clinking sound. When they break off the top, they fall in front of the bulldozer of lava that's moving away towards the ocean, or going downhill, which is always towards the ocean. And they break off this crusty, so you can find these lava fields that's filled with it's called lava, and they're like the size of a softball, and they're very light. You pick them up because it's got a lot of air, and it's like pumice, and you can throw it like a softball, but they'd just be like just as far as you can see, like an acre of this lava, right, in some of the places, and it stays like that for hundreds of years before it gets covered with dirt, and eventually it gets buried and grass starts growing on top of it, and eventually you won't see the lava any longer. The grass will grow right on top of it because it's so porous, and it actually becomes, soil accumulates on top of it from bird droppings and debris and wood and leaves and other things. Eventually soil is created on top of the lava. So you can see, like, this is an area right here where you can see that kind of lava that I was talking about. That's lava. It's really rough. Fortunately, when it's in the water, it gets smoothed up a little bit because of the wave action. So it's not as sharp as the coral is once it's underwater for a couple of dozen years. But you can see, like, this is just a giant lava flow but it's all covered with trees and stuff now. Pretty sure that they created this little crescent beach down here. Pretty sure that's man-made because I don't remember that. Oh, sorry, it's crescent this way. That was a shadow. I'm pretty sure that that's man-made, because I don't remember that being there, because there weren't a lot of easy places to get in and out of the water. If you don't know what you're doing and you don't have booties or the right kind of gear, you can really cut yourself bad getting in and out of the water on rough lava like that. I got a feeling they kind of created that. It has gorgeous swimming pools in the center between the wings, and it's a good hotel. And if you ever get a chance to do some traveling like me and Carl, you can check it out. And I'm gonna call it. Love you guys. Thanks for watching, and let's ride.